be fair, Commander Krug was as a Klingon goes, Commander Krug was technically a hero amongst Klingons. I mean, he only defended, I mean, am I wrong? He only did what a Klingon would do. He killed the gunner who screwed up. And really, Captain Krug, your character has not only, you were the first, you are the person, who established the modern Klingon mythology. We saw them in the motion picture for a moment. You were the Mick Jagger of Klingon captains. You get to kick Kirk's ass all over the place. You shoot your own men. You order Kirk's son killed, I know.
Yeah. And I've had damn few romances in my films, which you may have noticed. The only true romance I had, and even that was very kind of Victorian, was Clara in Back to the Future 3. But my first romance, Captain Krug had a romance with a Klingon lady, and she was in another spaceship, and for political expediency, it was necessary to obliterate that spaceship, and Captain Krug did it without a moment's hesitation. It simply had to be done. And that was the end of her. So be it. Tough shit.
Now you have said publicly, if I may, that you are a Trek fan.
What?
A Star Trek fan. You're a fan of Star Trek. A fan of Star Trek.
Oh, I'm a fan of Star Trek. I didn't really follow it up until the movie. I knew it was there, and occasionally I would tune in, but I wasn't like addicted to Star Trek.
I am, and you're part of the reason I'm addicted. Because the moment that Krug shows up, you set the tone. At that Star Trek 3, following Ricardo Montalban's Khan, you came in and kicked ass all over the place. I work at a bar called The Trestle. That's not a plug. Don't go there.
The Pretzel?
The Trestle.
The Pretzel?
Don't go. The manager there had a question for you by proxy. When you were Judge Doom, when you played it, did you realize how many children were going to be traumatized when you're revealed?
I say, bad people don't care. And I'll tell you this, when I was a kid, I went to the very first Walt Disney films, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I had the same nightmares kids do today when they watch Judge Doom. When I saw that bitchy witch climb the cliff and the lightning coming down, she was horrible when she looked in the mirror and saw what she saw. Nothing could be scarier. In Bambi sounds like such a sweet little film, but there's a moose or wolves, I forget which, that come out of the bush with the teeth dripping saliva. That was nightmare time for me. So what I did in Who Framed Roger Rabbit was simply payback.
What is the most, of all the villains, what is the one that people most come up and mention to you?
Judge Doom, Captain Kirk. I think there's another one somewhere.
Mr. Freeze.
Huh?
Mr. Freeze. You were the voice of Mr. Freeze on the first of the Batman animated series.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. I think I'm right. Maybe not. I think you might have been the voice of Mr. Freeze on Bruce Timm's first animated Batman series.
Wasn't he?
No Batman nerds
I
here?
don't think so.
Someone says yes. Oh, wait. Hold on a moment. Chevy, was that the cue? Oh, Christopher.
No.
No, Mr. Lloyd. I believe Chevy Anderson says we're at Q&A time. We are. So do we have the Frankly? Right there. Do you have your questions?
Can everybody hear me if I yell these out? Yeah. Are You want me to go on the mic?
You come over here. Come over here. Come on. Come here for it. Our sponsor, Frankly Social Media, has 3 quick questions, Chevy. I'm sorry. Josh told me this.
What the hell is going on?
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions for some listeners. What actor that you've worked with has had the most impact on you?
I guess I have to say, overall, Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. I've worked with a lot of actors who I've learned a lot from, but Jack Nicholson was an idol of mine before I ever did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And the films like Easy Rider, 5 Easy Pieces, The Last Detail, Carnal Knowledge. I mean, I just thought he was incredible. And then one day I was sitting on a set with him in front of me and it blew me away. Thought he was phenomenal with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And I worked with him since then a couple of times. And I just, he was a mentor. He was made a huge impression on me.
Thank you. Now, if there's one, is there a movie role that you regret that you did not take?
Yeah.
Which one would it
Back in the early 80s, Martin Scorsese directed a film in Spain that had a religious theme in it, about Christ and the disciples. And I was going to be one of the disciples, and he asked if I would do it, and I turned him down. I turned him down because I just felt, why am I going to Spain to do that? Why this and why that? And I talked myself out of it, and I've regretted it ever since. I would have, to work with Martin Scorsese and the cast that he had assembled, I should have run for it, but I ran away from it.
Okay, here's one last question. How would you modernize a DeLorean today? What was it missing?
How would I modernize it?
Yeah.
I don't know if you could go much further than it is.
The espresso
I mean,
machine?
it travels through time.
That's true.
What do you want?
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd.
All right, Mr. Lloyd, we have some questions. Miss Anderson.
Does this come disengaged?
It does. It takes off. It takes off.
Yeah.
Mr. Lloyd, out of the 3 Back to the Future movies, which two would you say turned out the best?
Well, my favorite is Back to the Future 3. Yeah. There was horseback riding. There was riding that's steam engine, which is a trip. I don't know if any of you have been able to get close to a steam engine. They're not around anymore except in some places, but they're enormous. They're freaking enormous, and they have all those parts moving, the wheels moving, the steam coming out, the noise. They're extraordinary, and no 2 steam engines, even if they were built by the same manufacturer on the assembly line, no 2 behave the same way out on the tracks. It's like sailing. You've got to judge and feel the curves and all that kind of stuff. So that was a trip working on that. And it was a Western. Westerns are always fun. And yeah, I had, excuse me, I'm being censored. I had the second romance. Excuse me. I had a second romance after dear. So, and then my second choice, I want to say Back to the Future 2. I really love that Back to the Future 2 got dark. It went into with that guy who got that book of records and made a fortune and established a corrupt city. Not good. Back to the Future 1,
Got shot up.
I guess I'll pick all 3. We didn't know how it was going to turn out it opened. It now incredibly, hence 2 and 3. So they were all pretty great, but my preference is number 3.
Let's switch his mic out.
Mr. Lloyd, recently you had a cameo in 1 Million Ways to Die in the West as Doc Brown. What was the process of sort of getting invited to do it, accepting, and then what was it like returning to the doc after so many years?
Well, I love the idea. I mean, Seth MacFarlane explained how it's going to be used in the film, and I thought it was a really clever way to bring a character back that has popularity and have a moment like that in a Western village, because it made sense, you know. And my biggest concern creating the look of Doc Brown, because I was a little bit older, and so I had the same makeup people and hair people that did the Back to the Future series, and they came for that. I mean, I worked one morning on the film for about a half an hour. That was it. So it was a lot of preparation for just a few minutes, but it's worth every minute of it, and it's, you know, it was a lot of fun. Right.
Thank you.
Hello, how you doing?
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Okay.
Thanks for being here, by the way. My question for you is, you've heard a lot of things, you've done so many things in your celebrated career. What is your all-time, perhaps favorite, inspirational quote? And it could be something you've heard in your life, maybe something you heard during the course of your film career, TV career, that sort of thing.
Into what?
Inspirational quote. What would you say is your favorite one that you've heard in your life?
Oh, boy. I tell you, inspirational quote, you say?
Yes.
When I was an actor, before I was a member of any union, and long before I did any film or TV or anything like that, because I started my career pretty much in New York City doing theater. But I did a lot of off Broadway. You know, basements, people's apartments, churches, etc. And I remember I also did some summer stock when I was around 16. And I remember there was a veteran actor in the company. And when I say I was doing summer stock, I was like cleaning toilets, brooming the theater, doing a lot of things that you don't normally expect actors to do when they're starting out. And most of us will swear never to do them again. But there was a senior actor, all us apprentices were sitting around, and he was talking to us. We were asking him questions, and he said that the most important thing to be successful as an actor is persistence. And that's very true. I mean, you get a lot of rejection, but you just keep moving forward. I had so many auditions in New York that didn't go anywhere. And after a while, I simply got pissed when it didn't work out, and I would come back with the next audition more determined than the way I was before. So the kind of persistence, determination, even if you don't have confidence, you just keep driving forward and try to get every opportunity you can to do what you want to do. So that was probably the most valuable when I think back.
That's good. Thank you very much, by the way.
Welcome.